So the reason we consider this a full year experience, even though you travel for spring semester, is because there is a requirement for first semester. And that is everyone will be enrolled prior to your orientation when you register for the rest of your fall courses in this UNIV 108 Mason transition course. So a regular load of full credits at the university is 12 to 15 credits, and that's what your tuition covers. So the reason our course says 0 to 1 credit is that if you've already registered for 15 credits and our course puts you at 16, you can contact us and we're able to change that to 0 credit so that you aren't charged additional tuition for your fall semester. This course is very helpful and really important. I'm sure some of our Gateway alumni will talk to that, because through that course, you're not only learning about Mason, you're learning about the country where you'll be in the spring semester. The course covers things like visa, application preparation, course registration with your host institution, homestay or dormitory selection for your spring semester. And then we answer questions like the financial pieces, we revisit things of that. We also will have guest speakers join us virtually from those universities, so you can get that firsthand perspective, whether it's professional staff you'll work with when you're there or students from that university. And then we'll also be having an opportunity for some of our Global Gateway alumni to join in to give their perspectives as well. And then spring semester, this is also really important to know. Again, it's still 12 to 15 credits for your tuition, regardless of what the setup is at your host institution, because you're paying Mason tuition, not the tuition of that university. Though that's why it becomes as affordable as it does, because whether you were at Mason for spring or your host institution, you're paying the same tuition and room that you would have paid if you stayed in Fairfax. It's also important to note that all the courses you take, regardless of location, are in English. And we have a pre-approved list of courses that have already transferred or we know will transfer in what we call our SIRS database. So when you get your list of courses that are being offered at your host institution, you can look at our database to see how are those courses scheduled to transfer over. If they're not in there, we have another process for how we can get those evaluated.
Okay, so now we're going to deep dive into the finances section, and we've split it up as billable and non-billable. So one of the perks of Global Gateway is that you are still paying Mason directly. You're not paying this country or this institution abroad. You're going to be paying Mason for your tuition and the mandatory student fee, which all Mason students have to pay. And then as well, you're going to pay Mason room and board. So why we have asterisks there is that board really is a meal plan, and some destinations have meal plans that have host families, and then other destinations do not offer a meal plan. So if they don't offer it, we don't charge you it, which is why it's over in our non-billable cost area. So we want to prepare our students for those destinations that don't have a meal plan. They do have apartments, so you can make your own food, but you want to be mindful of budgeting that for the spring semester. Some other mindful things as non-billable costs, which is what you're paying on your own, is the flight there and back, any personal expenses, the visa application that you'll do in the fall semester, books and supplies there. Some institutions require extra insurance. Our office does offer international insurance that we give to all students, but a couple of institutions have their own that they require. And then some destinations have specific medical exams.
This is the other important part that students always wonder about, is how the financing works. So the use of financial aid and scholarships in particular, since this is a tuition bill that comes through Fairfax and not your international university, it means no matter what kind of scholarships, financial aid, or grants you have, you can use that to pay for your spring semester billable costs. And that will be applied just the same as it would when you're making, or your parents are making payments for your fall semester in Fairfax. The only exception to that are rule changes with the Department of International or of Veterans Affairs for students who are here on family GI bills paying for colleges. They now only allow for GI bills to be applied towards our Korea program because that's a GMU campus in another country. If you're on GI bills for any of our other locations, you would just not be using your GI money for that semester. You'd have to pay for that through some other source of income. And then you would kick in your GI Bill benefits again when you return back for your fall semester of sophomore year. The Gateway Scholarship itself is automatic and guaranteed for everybody who's confirmed they're going to participate in the program. For in-state and international students, it's a flat $1,000 rate. For our out-of-state students, it's based on financial need as determined by our financial aid office. So that can range anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000. And that helps take that much more burden off of what your tuition is during spring semester. It is applied toward your spring semester. You won't receive it for fall. Financial aid is only allowed to release it within 10 days of the start of a semester. So they will automatically apply that to your account leading up to your spring semester. And again, for the out of states, they're using FAFSA information that you have used to apply for the federal aid. So that's how the financial aid office lets us know how much more need there may be so we can determine the scholarship. All students around the end of October will receive notification from me of the exact amount of the scholarship that will be applied towards their spring semester tuition. If after you've paid for everything with that scholarship, you have a positive balance remaining, you can petition the student accounts office at GMU to send you a check for the remaining unused money. And then you can use that money however you want to put towards non-billable costs, your costs of, your food allowance, whatever it may be that you want to use that for towards spring semester.
Okay, and then I wanted to highlight this new tool we have, which are the Gateway Maps. And I'll show you the link later once we get out of this presentation, but these are major advising pages. So if you see on the right, you are in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, and you are a criminology major. You'll click on there, click on your major, and then you will see how that maps out. So this is a business screenshot, and you can see on here what countries are checked off for the courses that you need, and any that do not have a checkbox. We recommend that you take those in the fall semester so that you can get the most out of your spring semester abroad. And John and I definitely recommend that you meet with your academic advisor sooner rather than later so you can plan out your entire freshman year. Oh, and then one last tidbit is that Ecuador is a brand new program. So you might see that their courses are limited, but this list is always growing, even for our other countries as well. It's not an end all be all. We're definitely still working on getting more courses transferred over and how they come back to Mason. Oh, John, you get the fun slide.
Yeah, so this is our current status. And for any of those who have been accepted or your guardian because of your age still has to give pending consent so that we can review your application, this is our latest status. And as you can see, we are extremely popular this year. So popular, in fact, that we're running 2 sections of Korea. And again, that has to be due to it being one of our campuses, so we know we can offer a lot more. So we either cap our sections at 30 or 15, depending on the size of the Gateway program and what's available for support. So currently, this shows that our first section of Korea is already full at 30. Our second Korea section has 11 spots remaining. Ireland and Spain are both full with 30 students each. Greece has 1 spot remaining, and Australia has 2. And our second tier of gateways, most of which are smaller because they're either new this year or last year, Currently, we have 6 spots remaining in Costa Rica. Thailand, we have 11. South Africa, we have 12. And Ecuador, we have 14. For some of these, if you're interested, particularly in those other gateways that have a lot of spots, I don't want you to become complacent on how slowly or quickly you submit that confirmation once you've been accepted, because all of these gateways already have a lot more students accepted than what we have spots available. So it's going to come down to who confirms their participation first to get those remaining spots. Once we have a full section like we did with Ireland and Spain, we take all the additional students, we look at each of your individual applications to see what you rated as your next highest gateway, and then we send you a new acceptance to that location, and we'll go down that list to where it gets to that point. Then you either confirm for your new destination that you have, or if you decided the one you wanted to be in was the only one, nothing else, you of course always have the option to decline participating in the Global Gateway program. One student had let me know, I saw down the chat, I don't remember the name, but they asked about, they were accepted to one gateway, can they switch to another? So the answer is yes. So this is what you'd be looking at. If the one you want to switch to is still available, you can use our email and just put in your name, what you were accepted to and which one you want to switch to. And I will send you a new acceptance for that gateway as long as there's still space available.
Okay, and then we just wanted to highlight some important links, our homepage, the map so you can see what courses are abroad for your location and major, and then our FAQ website, which has many of the answers you're probably looking for, and then our contact. So we are in the Johnson Center right above Chipotle, room 235. We are open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So feel free to stop by if you are close to the area. You can also give us a call at that number or email us, which is the quickest way, honestly, at abroadfr@gmu.edu, our website. And then for those that don't follow our Instagram, it's Mason Global Gateway, and we do Q&A Tuesday, every Tuesday. So we have them today. For if we didn't get to your questions during this session, then you're more than welcome to go to the Instagram and ask them. And I run the account, so I'll be sure to give you an answer as quickly as I can. Okay, so that is the end of our presentation. I know there was a lot going on in the chat. I did my best to keep up with them. I will definitely be still looking through that, but I want to go ahead and introduce our Global Gateway alumni. So I'm going to, alumni, I'm just going to state your name and then feel free to say what gateway location you went to, what year you are, what's your major, and what's your hometown. So major, year, location, all that jazz. Okay, first we're going to start with Matt Zillick.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt. I was in the Ireland 2020 group, and I'm a history major, and I'll be graduating in 2023.
Maria from Spain.
Hi, my name's Maria. I'm from Percival, Virginia. I'm a government major, and I went to Spain in 2020.
Ransom.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ransom Fox. I went to Greece in 2020. I'm going to be a third-year senior upcoming. I major in public administration, and I minor in legal studies. And I'm from Fairfax, Virginia.
Our local star, Fatima.
Hey everyone, my name is Fatima. I'm going to be a junior next semester at Mason. I'm from Fairfax and I am part of the South Korea 2020 Global Gateway, and I am a Korean language major.
Haley.
Hi everyone, I'm Haley Grizzle. I'm a global affairs major. I'm going to be a junior next semester. I'm from Suffolk, Virginia, and I was in the Korea 2020 Gateway as well.
And Haley, would you also like to tell them how long you've stayed in Korea?
I stayed in Korea for a full year. And fun fact for all you Global Gateways, I will definitely be back with you guys next semester for your Global Gateway Spring.
Yay.
And then Shannon, who is in Korea currently with Gateway.
Hello, I'm Shannon. I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia. I'm actually an engineering major with a minor in global affairs. And as Alyssa said, I'm already in Korea currently.
Wonderful. So we're so excited to have our alumni here. I know you guys realize that we don't have an alumni for every location. That's just due to availability, or that your location is new and we haven't sent Gateway students there yet. So you will be our first cohort. But we do have some professionals here. Ahim and Kelly, if you want to introduce yourselves.
Sure, I can do that. My name is Achim Bach, and I actually taught Australia and Ireland in the past. Ireland did not go because of COVID, but I can speak for Australia. I took a group there early 2020, and we spent about 3 weeks in Curtin.
Hi, my name's Kelly. I'm the instructor for the South Africa program, and I previously instructed the Greece program, and I lived in South Africa for about 2 years.
Alrighty, and I just got word that Australia is closed. We are officially booked, capped at 30 students. This is our largest cohort yet for all of Gateway. We are super excited. And I'm just going to answer this one logistics question real quick. What is the difference between Korea 1 and 2? And I think it's been answered in here. It's just that Korea is so popular that we are going to send 60 freshmen there abroad, but our classes are capped at 30 students. So it's just going to be 2 different classes, but there's nothing different between which one you're in.
Yeah, and in case everybody didn't see what's happening in the chat, I was also asked if there would be multiple sections of other gateways. The answer is no. We don't have that capacity with other universities. This is just something we can make due to the flexibility we have with our own campus being in another country.
Okay, so let's get the ball rolling. Any alumni, feel free to answer. Where did you travel, if you were able to, during your time abroad?
I can go ahead and start this one. So one of the advantages if you're going to be in Europe is you'll be part of the EU. So you'll have a huge access of countries at your disposal. And I was able to go to Austria with one of my friends, and we spent a week there. And we got to go visit. We stayed in Vienna, and then we took a train from Vienna to Salzburg, and we got a tour around the Alps, and it was a very pretty scenery. And then in Ireland itself, we went to a lake in the northern part of Dublin called Glendalough, and it was a very isolated, serene area with a very pretty path that you can walk around the entire area. So if you get to go to Ireland, I would highly recommend you take these trips. They're amazing.
Shannon, didn't you just recently have a spring break? Did you go anywhere?
Yeah, so for Korea, because it is isolated, you can't do as much for like going other countries, and COVID also impacts that now. But so far, like in Korea, there's always like Seoul, which is like an hour away by transportation, like subway, and it's super simple to get to a lot of things to do in Seoul. But we actually just went down to Busan for about 4 days for spring break last week. And we're also planning on going to like Jeju in a couple of weeks, which is like the island off the coast of Korea. But we've also traveled to like other like major cities like Daegu and Jeonju. So basically it's just, if you can, there's like the express bus system in Korea. So it's like $20, you get on a bus and you can basically go anywhere throughout the country in a couple of hours. And it's really convenient and very nice. And you can basically go anywhere.
This is a good question for any of our MK alumni here. Do I have to learn Korean for Korea?
Okay, I guess I can probably answer this since I'm a Korean major, but also I so technically, no, you don't have to know Korean when you're in Korea. My gateway section actually had a lot of students that didn't know Korean at all, and they were perfectly fine there. But I would honestly recommend trying to learn a few things, some phrases that would be like important, and just so you can be like, culturally aware and maybe even have conversations with people for fun and just like to make it kind of a more immersive experience if you can just learn some phrases, or even this is kind of unique to Korean, but because it's so easy to learn the alphabet, maybe just teaching yourself how to read stuff so that when you're there, maybe reading signs or whatever would be more helpful to you. But again, it's not required to know Korean. A lot of people didn't know it in my group, but it would be really helpful, and it would also be nice to like enrich your cultural experience there.
Haley, did you want to add anything to that?
I was just gonna say that even though I like took Korean before I went to Korea, I'm absolutely not the least bit good at it whatsoever, and I made it perfectly fine throughout my entire year there. And if you're interested in Korean, I recommend registering for that to be one of your classes because the Korean teachers over there are such great teachers and you'll pick up a lot more. But you don't have to know any. You're always going to be with somebody who speaks Korean and English, and they'll help you around because, and then especially being in the international business district, a lot of businesses and people there speak enough English to help you find like the bare minimum of what you need.
Right. And like the subway systems as well, like the subway has English and Korean, and there's apps that you can use that are super helpful that are also available in English. So there's a lot of English around, especially in Seoul and in Incheon and the areas that you guys will mainly be at.
And Haley, this question came up and it also only applies to Korea. Again, this relates to it being one of our campus locations. So Gateway Korea is the only one that if you're there, you can extend for additional semesters. The others you cannot. You'd have to come back and then apply for a new study abroad experience. So just kind of the simplest of terms, Haley, can you tell the students like when they would make the decision and how you went about that so everybody knew you were going to continue on with Korea?
So I made my decision to extend in the early spring. I let our student affairs office know, and they're going to put out a timeline for you guys if you want to extend. They're going to give you a day you have to decide. They're going to give you a day where you have to go into the office and put in your visa extension form, and they're going to give you a list of things that you need to do. You need to get a Korean bank account if you don't have one. You need to have like 3,000 US dollars in your bank account in that Korean bank account to extend your visa. And they're just going to give you just a basic timeline of whatever needs to be done. And so you're probably going to want to have that done by March or early April because it's going to take a while for you to get that visa extension form in. I know that it was kind of something new that me and my group had to do when it came to extending visas, and it took us a really long time. And so I know that it's hard to kind of come up with a yes or no, I'm going to stay, but just kind of have it in the back of your mind and make as many preparations you can as early as possible if you really love it so much and you want to stay.
Wonderful. I'm going to answer one more logistic question and then we'll get back to the alumni. Do we travel with a group when going to the country destination? You do not. Travel is on your own because it's after winter break. So if you live in California, you live in Florida, we didn't want to make everyone come back to Fairfax and all travel out together. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't find a buddy in your class. As you can see, you're going to have many classmates and you can team up with them of, hey, we want to fly out together from this place. And many students live around this area or will fly out of this area. So you won't have a problem of flying alone, but just know that our office doesn't set it up for you just in case people are living everywhere and anywhere. And then I saw a specific question for Ransom. In Greece, what did you do for fun? Was there a big language barrier?
So the answer to the language barrier part, I know, so for us in America, most of us in our public education systems, we have to take Spanish or another language in elementary school, high school. They do the same thing in Greece for English. So like in their elementary schools and their high school, they take English as like a second language. So most of them, almost all of them, especially our age, speak English at a very, very well level, very high level. So there really wasn't much of a language barrier. However, I would recommend, just like with any of the other countries, being able to know the basics of the language. Like Greece, like I know some basic Greek. I still know some, just because you never know when you're in a situation you might need it, because maybe there's the older generations aren't as well versed in English as the younger generations. So I would definitely recommend, like there's classes at American College of Thessaloniki to take Greek, or there's also just like a culture class where you learn basic Greek. I would recommend doing that just because also it's fun and you can learn some more. But all in all, I would say, I don't know how it is in other countries, but I would say like relatively compared to other countries, Greece, it's a very low language barrier because they have been speaking English their whole life. For stuff to do for fun, I mean, there's so many opportunities within the American College of Thessaloniki. There's so many clubs and organizations. You can even, because I did student government there. Like my friends, they did club basketball. There's also like I interned with the Michael Dukakis Center. There's so many opportunities if you just ask the administration at ACT, and they're very willing to help. There's also, Europe is a completely different place. It's a lot more fun in my opinion, because you got, partying, clubs, you got a lot of stuff you can do. So I would say like fun, I would recommend meeting a lot of Greek friends. I still talk to them to this day. I would recommend meeting friends at ACT from Greece, from all over the world, because there's people that come from France and other locations, because they can, you'll be able to network and also make great friends. And they can show you, like a lot of my Greek friends show me the real Greece, not just the tourist Greece. And I had a lot of fun at tavernas at like 2 a.m. and going to clubs and just chilling. Like it really opens your eyes and it shows you the genuine, authentic Greece. So I would absolutely recommend making friends with the Greek students there to show you the real Greece. And then there's so many more opportunities, in my opinion. There's a lot more freedom. You can do what you want, whatever you want to do, choose your own avenue, choose your own path, and have a lot of fun and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Ransom. So we've got a couple more logistics questions and then we'll get back. So if my location doesn't offer any classes relevant to my minor, should I switch locations or front load them in your semester at Mason? I would front load them in Fairfax because you've got Mason core abroad. You might have major courses. So I wouldn't switch out of your location just because they might not offer courses for your minor. If you can make 5 classes work abroad, then I wouldn't switch, especially as you've seen from our presentation, many of our locations are full and you might not be able to switch to another location at this point. And then one more, does applying to Gateway take the place of applying to an LC? And it does not. So all freshmen have to be in a learning community if you are living on campus this fall semester, and Gateway application does not take place of that. So please handle all of your Mason housing things outside of our Gateway application. Okay, back to the alumni. What is Korea like for LGBTQ plus identifying people? And if none of our alumni are identifying, if you maybe saw anything or if you just have any tips or thoughts on that.
I know that Mason, Korea, the school itself is very, very inclusive. Because we didn't have a lot of events during COVID era, I can't speak for events, but I know that in the past there have been a lot of inclusive events and where we celebrate LGBTQ. And a lot of times they also do these events with the other universities, so Utah and Ghent and SUNY Korea. And so I wouldn't be worried about not being respected or treated any sort of way. In the areas that we're at, nobody is going to treat you any differently. You're going to be with a lot of other LGBTQ individuals as well. So you're going to be respected, you're going to be included, and I wouldn't worry about that at all. And you're going to find your own groups and find people that are going to relate to you, and just don't worry about it at all.
I'm definitely backlogged on messages and questions, so I'm super sorry. Please feel free to write them on Instagram after this event. But I did want to talk about the host family situation in Spain. And Matt, you can chime in for Ireland too. But if Maria or Matt could speak on the host family situation, how was it? Tips, all that jazz.
Yeah, I can go ahead. So in Ireland, you're not going to be in a dorm. Actually, someone just asked a question about this, so that was pretty good timing. Um, you'll be living with a host family, and the location of that family will kind of depend a lot. Because I know for us, we like my group got scattered a bit. I was sort of isolated from a lot of my other group. They were in West Dublin or East Dublin. I was in the east side, but we were still within a very close, like very somewhat close within each other, like probably like 10, 20 minutes on a bus. And your family will take care of you. Like they'll get you your breakfast, they'll get you your dinner. You will have to take care of yourself for lunch. Although you will have like I'd imagine they're going to be going back to DCU, so there's a lot of options for them on campus there. And you're a mile away from the city center in Dublin, and there's so many places you can visit there, of course, because it's a major city. And as for tips with the family itself, I would say just be yourself, be friendly. They're there to help you. Um, I won't lie, it might be a little awkward at first trying to adjust to that, but a lot of these families have done this before and they know what it's like. So if you just open up to them and say like, "Hey, I don't really know," like if you just ask them questions about boundaries, so like what you want them to do, I'm sorry, what they want you to do and stuff, they will be more than willing to tell you everything you need to know.
For my family, it was a little different because I was in Spain. So I didn't really have a language barrier issue with them, but I know other people did. Like people in my cohort, they didn't speak Spanish and their families didn't speak English. So that can definitely be an issue sometimes. But kind of like what Matt said, it's just like be yourself, be respectful, learn a little bit about their customs and culture in terms of family before you get there. Because in Spain, at least, families tend to hang out with their extended families, so like grandpas, aunts, and uncles. So my host grandma was there all the time, and it's a completely different generation. So you kind of have to like learn how to manage that. Um, but other than that, living with the host family probably is what made my experience in Spain, just because you have like your own personal little tour guide. Like my host mom was the sweetest woman ever. I still talk to her to this day. I was so scared to get on the train to go to school that she took me to the train station herself my first day of school and showed me where everything was and which directions to go. So I guess it really depends, but I know everyone that went to Spain with me, we all had really good experiences with their host parents. And I don't know if they typically do that, but I know a lot of us got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like our host moms would pack us lunch. I don't know if it's like a customary thing there, but they're like, "Oh, we'll just pack you lunch and you can take it to school with you." So.
And Maria, while you're speaking on your experience, how close is Madrid to the main campus? Or like how close was your host family to campus, Madrid, all that good stuff?
So I was actually really lucky. My host family and my friend Thomas, we lived on a street where there was a metro stop. So I lived 2 blocks from the metro. It was like a 2-minute walk in the morning. And then I lived next to the largest train station, which was a stop from my metro. So it was Atocha. So I rode the metro for literally a minute. And then I would get on the train. And I think the train ride was like 30 minutes or so, depending on how many stops, how many people were getting off, just stuff like that. And then they drop you off at the train station for the university. And I believe it's a 10 to 15-minute walk, just depending on like how fast you go. Like there were mornings where we were running late to class and you had to speed walk. But it really wasn't that bad. I know for me, we planned to go to the train station together some mornings. But often I ran into my friends like from Global Gateway at the train station. But it's a okay commute if you live next to a metro stop. But I know people that didn't live close to metro stops, it was a little more difficult for them because they would have to take a bus or walk further. But I was in a good place.
Okay, I see a lot of talk in there about reaching out to our alumni. So any of our alumni on here who haven't put in their email and they're comfortable with it, for students to reach out to you, I would really appreciate that if you're comfortable with taking questions from our prospective students. Sorry, just making sure I'm getting all of these questions. Shannon, since you're there now during COVID, do you want to talk about maybe your quarantine process and what it's like being in Korea during a pandemic?
So I don't have any experience of what Korea was like prior to everything happening. All I hear is that it's very, very different, like night and day difference between then and now. But what I can say is that even though it's through COVID, I am having still a lot of fun here. There's still a lot of things you can do. It does like it limits you in the fact that you can only go out with like 4 people, like there's regulation on that. A lot of places close by like 10 p.m. Things like that, which is a little bit hard because you have to leave early and do things like that. But coming into Korea, the process of getting off the plane and going into quarantine was really simple. They basically walk you through everything at the airport. And it's just the Mason Korea like staff here was really, really helpful too, making sure that everyone like got to the right places correctly and getting information out. And so like when I got here, we went and had to go get tested for COVID, and then the 2-week quarantine process, I'm not sure it'll be in effect next time you come or not. Some people didn't like it. I didn't mind it. The 2 weeks in the room, it was just kind of like relaxing time before everything started. But now after the fact, the only thing that I wish was slightly different was that I had in-person classes. Everything here is online, just like back at home, which just make it a little bit harder to meet Korean students. I still have like people on my hall and people through like, there's been a couple of times people like see me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're Shannon from class, because they see like my face on the screen, stuff like that. But overall, like during COVID, it's been really fun still, not too many limitations on meeting people and doing things overall.
And then Shannon, could you talk about how it is to do the self-catering meal plan, which is doing meals on your own?
Yeah, so I actually have not had the cafeteria food on campus. I just never went there. But because of location of IGC, we're right across the street from Triple Street, which is like a big shopping mall, and they have a lot of food there, a lot of different restaurants. So usually for me, if I get like a breakfast, I'll actually just go to like a convenience store and get like something simple for like beginning. And usually for dinner, I'll go with like friends and just find a restaurant, and it's super simple. It's not necessarily cheap, it's not necessarily expensive though either. You just need to find the right places to get the right kind of food. And I really like Korean food, so like I eat like tteokbokki a lot and donkatsu, and I go to ramen houses, things like that, and a lot of traditional Korean places too. So I really enjoy the food.
And not to keep you on the spot, but you are an engineering major, and we had a question of what is it like being in an engineering major and studying abroad with such heavy credit requirements?
So coming into college, I actually previous, so I was basically a semester ahead in my credits. So I took all of my, I had to like work with my course outline, and before coming, I highlighted the classes I had to take last semester. I took all of my MIG science classes. So the only class that goes to my major this semester is like a econ class. But what I was able to do is that my plan was to get a minor in business, but they didn't offer enough for like those specific courses here. So I actually changed it to global affairs, and I'm able to get 3 out of my 5 courses done for global affairs by the time I get home. So I'm actually coming back exactly on schedule for the future. And I plan to study abroad again later. It's just a matter of like working, I think, in the future with like trying to find the right time. But definitely get your science classes done if you are an engineer going out previous to leaving is my opinion, because Mason Korea doesn't have those science classes. So
Great, thank you. And do any other alumni want to talk about if they had a major before they went to Gateway, and how you chose courses for your spring semester?
I was a global affairs major and I declared and everything. I had my minor declared as well before I went to Mason, Korea. And because you're going as a freshman, you have a lot more wiggle room, I think, than if you were going later in your college career because you already have to do a bunch of Mason core classes that may not contribute to your minor at all. And so Mason Korea definitely does not have like the sciencey classes, but you can get out your language classes, you can get out econ classes, business classes, English classes. And so I would just suggest looking at what you need for your basic Mason core and comparing them to the Mason Korea classes. Because even though I had gone longer than I wanted, I still came back ahead of schedule, honestly, in my credits because I took like my upper level credits, honestly, for Mason core, like my writing intensive classes. There's a EVPP class, and then you have another EVPP class, which will count as your non-lab science. And so there's just stuff like that, because even if you declared your major, you'll still be perfectly fine taking classes at Mason Korea.
Ransom, your hand's up.
Yes, awesome. So for everyone here who is applying to go to Global Gateway, who is in the Shar School of Government or thinking about doing that, I would definitely recommend two things. Number one, definitely talk, and this is for everybody, actually, this one, talk to your advisor. Like constant communication with your advisors is definitely key. I had this Ann Ludwig, still have her, and she was great. Like we met like 4 times because I was like, I gotta make sure I get the right classes. And sometimes they can change as well. So I would constantly just be sure that you have constant communication with your advisor, get a good repertoire and relationship with them. And I also would recommend, just as Haley said, knock your cores out of the way. So like for government, right? Like I got my art and my science out of the way in Greece, which is great. Like I would much rather do art in Greece than Fairfax. I much rather do science going on the beaches, in Greece than in Fairfax. So I would definitely recommend, I had like a couple cool classes that are based on my major in Greece, but definitely because the cores, I feel like studying abroad are going to be much more enjoyable and easier abroad than here. So I would definitely recommend just knocking those out in your study abroad, so you have a lot of opportunities to explore, adventure, and do other things, great things in study abroad. So that's my 2 cents on that issue.
Yeah, that's great advice. Greece has a sea sailing course, which I know a few people took with your cohort, Ransom, and they've got niche different courses like that for every location. So I think that was great advice to maximize while you're there, to enjoy courses that are relevant to the culture and something that like, you can't take sea sailing at Mason. Okay, question for alumni. What's something most people forget or don't expect when they first go abroad?
I can speak a little bit about this. I don't know any Korean. I am very, very limited on my Korean abilities. So when I first came, and not that I didn't expect it, but it was kind of shocking just like actually hearing the difference in languages. You just get used to it after a little bit. And this is just something too, like in Korea, about like the culture and like the regular daily life is that it's a very young people centric. There's very like fashionable, very like nice looking kind of like feel. And for me, that's very different because I am not that kind of person generally. And it's very different from American culture. Like it's very like toned down in like fashion sense, but just like kind of like nice looking. And that was just what I didn't expect either, because it's like kind of intimidating when you see everyone walking by and they all like perfect, and then you're just like, oh wait. So just like keep in mind just like the different cultural those type of different cultural things too, because they do make a difference in your experience.
Yeah, actually, also to piggyback off that, like to add on to it, there's also a lot of like cultural, at least like in Korea, from my experience, there's a lot of cultural things to keep in mind that I think a lot of people don't really realize. We touch on this a lot like in the class, but when you're actually there in Korea, I think a lot of people tend to forget this, but stuff like, for example, in Korea, they don't talk on the subways, and also it can get really crowded and they still don't really talk to each other or talk on the phone, and sometimes people will just like shove you around, but usually it's not like anything mean. But the main thing is that Koreans usually don't talk on the subway, but a lot of times the only people you'll hear talking are like foreigners, and sometimes they'll get weird stares or something because that's not something that they do in Korea. And just stuff like that to keep in mind, that little cultural differences here and there that I think people might learn beforehand, and especially in the UNIV class, we talk about it. But I think when you're actually there in the moment, I think people tend to forget that. But I think it's something good to keep in mind.
Wonderful. And Aham, I see that you're answering questions about all the Australia experience in the chat, but if you want to speak those out loud, Aham went to Australia with his students last year for Global Gateway, and we do have Australia Gateway alumni, just no one could come to tonight's event.
Well, yeah, thank you. I'm just seeing here. So Australia, where are we? Things to do and what is the meal experience? Okay, Australia is a little bit like European universities in that there's no meal plan. You're on your own. So you can either use the kitchen that you have, and you have a shared apartment. So basically you have a room in there, and then there's a shared kitchen, bathrooms, and things like that. And it's next to the campus, actually. And you can easily walk it. The way I would summarize it, Curtin University is about 1.75 times bigger than Mason. So there's a little bit more walking involved. But it's beautiful. You can hear, lots of exotic birds and things like that. For the meal, there's also meals available. They have some small cafeterias available. It's good. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's certainly good. There's also a shopping mall nearby. You can walk to that. But most students would just go to supermarkets, buy food, and prepare it at home. Perth is really isolated, so there are only a few cities you can actually reach by train there. You would have to fly if you want to see something else. The only place that's close by is a wine region, Margaret River, which is further south. But there's plenty of stuff to do in Perth overall, beautiful beaches, and you will also arrive in the hottest month of the year. It gets really hot. It's 100 degrees. And dorms, unfortunately, it's not Virginia. They don't have AC. So students struggle a little bit with that, but they still love it. It's just getting used to the different kind of culture over there. I'm going to stop there.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information, Aham. If our Spanish is limited, is it easy to excel in the Spanish option, Maria?
I'm trying to think, because one of my friends, Max, that went, he literally spoke zero Spanish. That's not exaggerating. He spoke zero Spanish. I would say while we were there, his Spanish actually got pretty decent. It wasn't perfect, obviously, he wasn't fluent, but being in Spain, they don't, at least I noticed, they don't really speak English to foreigners. They'll still speak Spanish to you. So just constantly being surrounded by it, you'll slowly pick up on things. I'm not 100% if they had lessons. I'm pretty sure they did, but I didn't take any. Also, your Spanish classmates, in my experience, they were really nice. But if they don't have to speak English to you, they won't. So that was another thing. I had a professor, I had a Spanish, we had a group project, and I had a Spanish partner, and we went up to the professor and we started speaking to him in English, and he just looks at me and goes, "Do you speak Spanish?" And I was like, "Yes." And he just switched completely to Spanish. So that's something to kind of remember. But being there, you'll pick up on a lot. I know it can be a little scary because you're in a foreign country, you might not speak the language, but people are really nice. They're always super helpful, even if there's a language barrier. So it's nothing to be afraid of, and you'll definitely get better.
And like Maria said, we have students go from all ranges of 0 to fluent. We would definitely like for students to go with some proficiency, but it's not required. And the UNIV 108 instructor speaks Spanish, and I know she adds some language component to the fall course as well. Okay, next question. Did the alumni find the hosted country was cheaper or more expensive than Fairfax? Ransom, you seemed excited.
Yeah, yo, I'm just gonna say, I'm so sorry. Someone else can go. My dog's going crazy. Someone else can go first. I'll go second.
I think it was definitely cheaper to be in Korea than in Fairfax. It's a lot cheaper to like buy things you need to live and a lot cheaper to buy meals if you go to the right places. I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of expensive restaurants, but if you go to the markets or you go like a little bit further to campus town, you're going to get really, really good meals for cheap. And I made sure I had put aside a lot of spending monies. And by the time I had finished like my initial 6 months, I hadn't even like cracked into half of my spending money. And so if you just budget well and you can spend and have a lot of fun doing things for really cheap, because transportation is really cheap, especially if you go out and do like buses. And even if you taxi, if you go in a large group and you split taxis, super cheap.
Cool. Thankfully, my dog's quiet now. Yo, just to echo that, it's so much cheaper. I would recommend, because I did not do this, make sure you pack with room because you're gonna bring stuff back. So like I had to like struggle bus it on the way back home, but make sure you have room on your luggage to take stuff back because you're probably like I loaded up on clothes because it's a lot cheaper in Greece and it's probably superior in my opinion. I even got a fur coat while I was in Greece and brought it back home. So I would definitely do that because you're gonna have a lot of cool stuff that you can buy there for cheaper and better quality than you can here. So I would definitely recommend that. And for like food and everything in Greece, the equivalent of an Uber was called Beat. It was so much cheaper and easier. And if you're going to Greece or any country within the EU, I would always recommend though carrying around euros. Most places accept card and there are ATMs, but always have euros because some like a lot of newsstands where you buy bus tickets and other stuff like water or something take cash or coin only. So I'd recommend that, but definitely cheaper and take advantage of it because food, everything's cheaper and everyone loves saving money and getting better quality. So yeah.
And before Maria answers, Ransom, real quick, how was transportation in Greece?
Sure. So the bus, it's a little scary. It's very rocky. You have to get used to it first. It's very like jerky and rocky. But the tickets are €1 each, and I honestly walked everywhere. A lot of people walk everywhere. To get to the school, there's a charter bus that has certain times, but like if I want to come more earlier, I missed it, I would just call it Beat because they're very cheap. The Uber, like from ACT to our hotel, it was very cheap. And actually, I assume it's not going to be a hotel that everyone's staying at the apartment now. If that's that case, it'll actually be a quicker distance. You'll save even more money. So honestly, I walked everywhere. A lot of people walk everywhere. Sometimes a bus. I only rode it like 2 times, but mostly walking and then charter bus and then getting a Beat because they're very cheap and they're very efficient.
Great, thank you. Maria, I saw you had your hand up.
So in terms of expenses, kind of like what everyone else has said, Spain, Madrid has like I forget what the district is called, but that one area of the city is super expensive. You guys should ask Leslie, like she'll tell you. But there are like little fruit markets. And I remember one time I went grocery shopping and the lady told me my total and I was like, that's not right. I think you missed a couple things. And she was like, no, that's it. So like grocery shopping there can be super inexpensive. There was like, I forget the name. There was a one place called Cien Montaditos and everything there was €1. Like all the little sandwiches were €1. So that's like super cool to keep in mind. Another thing is transportation. Leslie and Rocio. So Rocio is like I don't know what her position is, but she's someone that's going to be in Spain and she's going to help you out. They set up our Metro cards for us before we even got to Spain. And each month the Metro card is €20 and you can ride the metro, the bus, and the train to school, and it's completely unlimited. So you can swipe it as many times as you want. The only thing is that with that card, you can't ride the train to like Valencia or something. Like you have to buy a train ticket for that. And also another thing is your host family should be giving you meals. So like what me and my friends did was we ate with our host family as much as we could because like you've already paid for it. So that was another thing to keep in mind is just like try eating in when you can so you can save money for traveling because we like to travel a lot when we were there.
Matt?
Oh yeah, I can go ahead and expand on that a little bit for any of the Ireland kids. So the expenses definitely will depend on the exchange rate of the currency of the country going to. So everyone who's spoken so far has talked about the euro, which is a bit more valuable than the dollar. But um, definitely just as long as you're budgeting, just what Ransom said, just make sure you're doing the right things. There's an area in Dublin called Temple Bar, and it is very popular, very touristy. It's also very expensive. So if you find yourself there, try not to buy anything because you'll probably be paying like twice what you actually should be. But there's loads of other areas that you can be spending money where you'll be getting a lot of really good stuff. Kind of like what Ransom mentioned with the clothes. I bought a lot of really nice clothes at thrift shops for like €5. Something that was just it was ridiculously cheap and just I still wear them to this day. I love them so much. Um, and for like bus tickets, I'm not sure if we'll be doing it next year, but we got a Leap card, which was a bus card where you would tap it up like you would put a certain amount of money on it, and that amount would go towards a bus fare. And every time you would get on, you would just swipe the card like getting onto the metro or anything, and they would take you wherever. And then whenever you ran out, you would just tap it up more. But if you didn't have the card, you can always just use euros. Although I will say, bus drivers only accept coins; they don't accept bills. So make sure you keep maybe one or two of those on hand if you don't have a full card.
And then Matt, while we have you, someone asked what are meals like? So what did you usually eat for breakfast and dinner by your host family?
So on weekdays, it was often everyone was too busy to really make a full breakfast. So even like I would go to the university and then eat. So I would get something. I would get maybe like um some days I'd be feeling like just getting like a little breakfast sandwich, or other days I would just get like a bit like some fruit. Although on weekends, my family would make like an Irish breakfast, which is a huge dish of like beans, toast, oh, like pudding, like black pudding, lots of other ingredients. I can't quite remember all of them at the moment. Um, and then for lunch, it was more or less just whatever like. Like sometimes I'd be going for like more traditional American food, just because there's lots of that available. There's lots of like foreign cuisine as well. So I made sure to try a lot of like Thai places, a lot of Mexican, a lot of, etc. like that. And then for dinner, it was the families, what my host family would always kind of take it a bit more easy with making food. So it was kind of more of a relaxed dinner. Usually just heated up food that was just enough to get me by.
Wonderful, thank you. I know we're at 5 o'clock, so if anyone has to leave, thank you for coming, and please email us with any other questions. But we're going to keep continuing as we have people here. But if alumni or just anyone has to go, thank you so much for coming, and feel free to email us if you have any other questions. But now I'm going to pass it on to Kelly, who can talk about South Africa.
Sure. So when I was an undergrad student, I studied in South Africa in Cape Town and partially in Stellenbosch for a semester, and completely fell in love with it and then moved there after graduating college. So it is an incredible country. I know John can speak on this as well, but one of the most multicultural places on earth. There's 11 national languages, and in Stellenbosch, where the university is, you really get a feel for that. While the classes would be in English, though, you would hear so many different languages on campus and experience so many different cultures. So Stellenbosch is about a 40-minute drive outside Cape Town, and Cape Town is a great city with mountains and ocean beaches there. But Stellenbosch is more of a college town and also wine country in South Africa. And so that's what it's mainly known for. And it's very easy to get around. It's very affordable. There's Uber there that many people use. There's trains, there's buses, shuttles. it's very, very easy to explore and also to see all around South Africa. So there's ways for budgeting there and traveling and seeing so many unique places. But if there's any specific questions folks have, you can always add them in the chat. But always rooting for South Africa.
Okay, and then we had a question on if anyone could talk about the Costa Rica experience. And Costa Rica is a brand new Global Gateway program, so we don't have any Gateway alumni, but the instructor who is teaching the Costa Rica course this fall is actually leaving for Costa Rica today. So he will be able to share a ton of pictures and videos of what the University Veritas is like. And I can tell you it's a host family situation where you'll be living close by to campus with a local. So you will get 2 free meals a day, breakfast and dinner by the host family. You're in San Jose. There's lots of beaches and touristy vacation stuff to do, but our instructor will definitely have a better picture of what Costa Rica is like, and I will put his email in the chat for you to reach out to him, and then we'll be posting our pictures when he gets back from his vacation.
And Alyssa, did you want me to say a few things about Ecuador?
Absolutely, yes.
Sure. So I have not been to Ecuador yet, but I was, that's also our new destination as well. I was involved in setting up the entire program. So University of San Francisco in Quito, it's the capital of Ecuador, right in the heart of the city. You will get the chance to have a homestay there as well, where families will be close in proximity to the university itself. It's another, metropolitan area with subways and buses and all that easy transportation as well. The other thing that's really unique about our program in Ecuador is they are going to set up a trip for those who are interested to take a weekend trip to their research lab that's in the Amazon basin. So that's something they're going to put together for everybody to see that firsthand. They also have for upperclassmen a research lab in the Galapagos Islands. So it wouldn't be open to freshmen, but say for instance, on spring break, anyone's interested in making that one of their kind of touristy trips, the university can easily let you know like who's the cheapest vendor to get there, where to stay and all that stuff. And then for those of you who are maybe familiar with more famous places in South America, but not with your geography, right next door to Ecuador, you have Machu Picchu. I know that's one of the largest tourist destinations in South America, and it's something that would be extremely easily accessible if that's another kind of touristy thing that you're looking to do on spring break or after your semester is over. So there's a lot of opportunity to explore the country itself through what the university offers, but also a lot of big, important tourist venues and historical sites in neighboring countries that will be easily accessible.
Wonderful. So we had a question about having goods shipped to, I'm pretty sure students going to Korea. They need to have products that they can't find in Korea. So Fatima or Shannon, what would you recommend, or Haley, for students where the products they want are not in Korea?
Deodorant. You need to pack so much deodorant. You cannot find it in Korea unless you go to the international market. And you are not allowed to ship deodorant to Korea. And so that's the one thing that when I extended my stay, I had trouble finding was deodorant, and I had to really search and go out into like international markets to go find deodorant.
Yeah, so just like a small thing about that, I went early with 2 of my other friends, and one of the friends I was with, her uncle is like a military, like he works in the military there. So we were able to go to the military base, and there we had access to like all the stuff that would be in a Walmart and like all the American stuff. There was like Taco Bells and Subways, and everything that we had over here was there. But once we left that little military bubble, it was like we couldn't really find the same stuff. And this is not as big of a deal as the deodorant was, but like some like snacks and stuff, like regular Cheetos. This is really off topic, but regular Cheetos I could not find anywhere. And I love Cheetos. So that was like kind of heartbreaking, but my friend had like her family send it to her. So if you really are craving regular Cheetos that bad, you could do something like that. But like Haley said, the main thing that I couldn't find is deodorant, and it'd be really hard to find it there. But if you really want to find it, you can.
If it's anything with like chemical base or something like that, you're gonna want to check the customs laws, because there's some places where like I don't know like what it is in Korea, but like their FDA or whatever doesn't approve like the same chemicals. And so like if it's something like deodorant or makeup or medication, just check the custom laws, and in your you'll get it in your gateway class, but there will be like a link to, you'll be provided of like what medications you can bring and what medications you can find.
Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to add is like towels in Korea, like full-size towels. People, you should bring it like from home, because it's really hard to find like regular size towels there. So I brought some from home with me, because beforehand I was like researching stuff, and that was like a big thing that people kept mentioning. And when I got there, I realized like, oh, it's good that I brought my own towel. So like if the full size like shower towel stuff, bring those too.
And while we're on that topic, I feel like I always get this question. I always forget the answer. Do you need to bring your own bed sheets for MK? And are the beds twin XL, which I think they are?
So the beds are twin XL. You can honestly probably fit a twin up there as well, but I would do twin XL. And like for my group, because we missed quarantine, we didn't have to. But if they're going to have to quarantine when they get there, you're going to want to bring your own towels and beddings. But that's kind of like the situation that will determine whether you need to bring it or not. Because I got off the plane and I got to go shopping straight away. But I know that the group after me, they were immediately quarantined. So they had to bring their own like bedding and stuff.
Alyssa, quick, there's a couple issues I want to bring up, and then I'm going to cut out because we have so much activity with our applications. The first announcement I wanted to make is, since Greece and Australia closed while we are in the midst of this, I will be looking at all the other applications within the next hour who were accepted to those locations, and look at how you rated the other open destinations, and then you'll receive a new acceptance to that location for you to decide if you want to join that program, or if you know there's another location that's still open that is equal of interest, but maybe it just wasn't rated at the time, maybe it's based on something you learned here tonight. You can reply back and just ask, is there still space listed in X gateway, and can I be accepted to that one? So I'm going to do that for the next hour. The other thing I did want to address is just kind of where things are at the moment with COVID, since I've checked in with all of our locations in our countries in the last week. So everybody's headed in the right direction. I'm firmly confident, since you're not traveling until spring semester, that we should be well past this, especially since everybody's getting caught up to getting vaccinated the way the US is. The only thing I would say at this point is we highly anticipate, even though it has not happened yet, there will either be countries, universities, or airlines that will make the COVID vaccine mandatory. So at some point during this summer, while you're also getting your passport, you should also get your COVID vaccination as soon as you're able to do so. I know if you're in Virginia, almost all locations that offer it have walk-in, and I think a lot of other states are going to be in a similar situation. If we have any of our international students that are going to be in Gateway, that applies to you as well. The other thing I did notice, there was a question about what kind of shots do we need for any of these locations. COVID's the only thing that's it. There's no country in our destination that requires anything special for additional vaccinations. The only additional piece to that is Korea, and I think it was South Africa, require that you get a special X-ray TB exam, but that cannot be done until well into the fall semester. So through your UNIV 108 course, will tell you when that needs to be done and the steps for working with a local physician, your local physician, to get that. A lot of times, even when you come to Fairfax, you can do what's called a bubble test or a scratch test. That's not enough for Korea. I see our alumni nodding their heads on that. It's a relatively easy process to get done. It just, at the moment you're doing it, seems like another hassle because you've done part of the step for us, but then Korea, the government wants something additional. But other than that, there's no other vaccinations to worry about for any of these countries. All right, with that, I will say thank you, and I'm going to log out and start getting to all these applications.
And you can also get your TB chest x-ray in country in Korea, and it's only around $30. So it's actually pretty cheap. If you can't get it done in America, you've got time to do it once you're in country. I know Ransom has to go soon, so I do have some Greece specific questions for you. What were the meals like in Greece?
So we got lucky because we were in a hotel, so we had free dinner, free breakfast, buffet. If you're like talking about in general, the meals are really great. There's like so many options. You have tavernas for very traditional food. You have like, there's this place called Grillos where they're like a grandma and grandpa to us. They give us like free food sometimes because they're really nice to us, very chill. There's a lot of euros. There's a lot of like dessert and kind of not food trucks, but kind of like food carts around the White Tower. But there's a lot of great food. You have fast food options and you have like more sit down. Although Greek culture is definitely more sit down in general. So most places I would say are sit down. In terms of on campus dining, you don't have a meal plan, but the meals are really cheap and they're actually very good. They're freshly made. You have like freshly made pasta, bread. They have like specific holiday themed food, like freshly made meat for like euros. And the guy is really cool. He does like fresh cafe all the time. You know, he follows me on Instagram. This guy's like a model. His name is Stavros, who serves the food. He's amazing. So I would say it's very like small portions of a lot of different types of food, like las tapas if you're Spanish. It's like basically like that. That's what Greek food is like. And then on campus you can have a lot of great food that's very, very cheap, very high quality. And then if people are living in Alexandria, then for breakfast, dinner, you're on your own, but there's shops everywhere where you can pretty much get whatever you want. And then restaurants, you have your options, but mostly sit down.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Oh, I do have one more question. I thought I did for Greece. Would you recommend taking a Greek course in the fall before going?
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you would be able to talk more to adults. That's who definitely is less English, and more Greek right away. And that's where you can have more opportunities open up for you because they have the resources to do so. Plus, maybe you'll be able to blend in and impress some people and not stand out like I did as an American. My friends did right away. You'll be able definitely just to blend in more. But I would definitely recommend it. I mean, why not? And it'll definitely impress people. And like, I wish I learned more Greek when I was there. Like, I know basics, nothing great. Some of my friends learned it really well. It's a very hard language, but if you can get a head start, 1,010% recommend it. Go for it. Have fun, and it'll be really helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Matt, did you already have your hand up? Did you have something to say?
Yeah, this is something I wanted to talk on a lot earlier, but I forgot to raise my hand, and I know we're way over our time, so I'll try to make this quick. But it's also super important for people going abroad for the first time, which is definitely try and take care of yourself, like mentally. Because you will, like, for me, this is my first time going abroad, and it was really stressful for a lot of it. But my group and I, we began to talk, and we kind of formed a very close bond with each other. All of us were kind of feeling that same pressure, that same feeling, so we all bonded after that. So I think, like, just so I don't waste too much of our time here, just try and take care of yourself and make sure you're not overexerting or stressing yourself out too much, because it will weigh you down eventually, because you're going to be abroad for the entire fall or spring semester. So you will want to make sure that you are not too stressed out.
And then Maria, right before you go, I had one last question for Spain. Of what were some things that you did in Madrid, and did you travel outside of Madrid during your time there?
So my friends and I, so I don't know if it's going to be the same thing for spring 2022, but I think there was 4 like planned trips for Spain that were free, like Mason paid for them. One, we went to Toledo for the day. Another one, we went to Valencia for a day and a night, and then like a little bit into the next day. And then there was 2 or 3 more after that, but they got canceled because of COVID. Um, but my friends and I, we did go to Cordoba, which is in the south, and we had other plans. Like we were supposed to go to Italy for spring break, but obviously things got canceled. So in a normal world, I would say travel from Spain is really accessible. Flights are super inexpensive. Typically, there's this one airline, I can't remember what it's called, Ryanair. They have really inexpensive flights, but they are restrictive on what you can bring. So it's mostly like carry on only, or you have to pay an absurd fee. So definitely keep that in mind. But like things that we did, so I'll just like say what a typical day was. So like I had class at 9 a.m. So my commute, I had to leave at 7:45 or 8 at the latest to like make it there on time. And then my friends and I would go to school. Classes in Spain are a little different because it's siesta culture. So the professors like to have a break basically during the day. So you won't really find classes in like the certain period of time. So most like all of my classes ended at 2. So we would just go to class, and then after that we would be like, oh, okay, what do we want to do after school today? And we would either go to Gran Via and go shopping, and there's this other street next to Gran Via which has a lot of shops too, like American shops, or we would go to Retiro, which is the big park there. Or other days we would literally just walk around. Like we would just walk, pop into random places, eat tapas, and then like on the weekends we would go out. Like you'll meet a bunch of exchange students from other countries, and they'll like all want to go out with you on the weekends. There was a museum, I think it's called Prado. They had free admission for students. I don't know if that's still a thing, but we did that. We would go there. There's just like a bunch of like little things. If there's, I forget what the office is called. It might be the Erasmus office in UC3M, but they organize events for exchange students. So like you can join, and then with this like Erasmus card, you can also get discounts like going places. So I would definitely recommend doing that, because when we got there, the program was full, so we couldn't like go on any of the Erasmus trips. But that's also a thing that I know all the other exchange students from like France and Germany and the Netherlands, like they all went on those little trips together. But Madrid, there's a lot to do. Like I promise you, you will never be bored in Madrid. There's so much to do. You're gonna walk so much. There's so much to explore, so many fun people to meet. And if you just kind of like, my biggest advice, and I know some of my friends didn't really do this when we were there, is just like try to meet other people. Like step away from your global gateway friends for a little bit, and I promise you it'll be a much better experience. It's going to be a good one, but if you meet other people, it's going to be so fun. So that's like my biggest piece of advice.
I think that's a great pro tip, especially with many of these locations, you're going with 30 other Gateway freshmen and with Korea 60. So I think it's important to remember that while you are there with Mason freshmen, and that is great and wonderful, you really should get to know people outside of Mason. That's the whole reason why you're studying abroad, is to meet new people. It looks like I have one more question, and it's for Matt. How often would you be able to travel both in and out of Ireland, and are the classes demanding?
So I'll go ahead and answer the second question because it kind of ties into the first one. It depends on what you take. The professors, the way they grade stuff is a lot different than it is in America. So, getting like a 70, for example, is really good. That's getting an A here pretty much. But there's no homework generally, but they are demanding when it comes, because of that, they are demanding that you will be participatory in class, and also do the assignments they do give you when you do have homework, which are mainly just gonna be assigned like papers or reading a book, for example. Um, but as for traveling, I personally wasn't really finding myself with a lot of space to travel that much, but on weekends for sure, definitely. A couple of my friends and I, we would go out outside the city and try and explore the countryside, because the countryside of Ireland is a lot different from the city of Dublin. We never got to go to Belfast or Northern Ireland, unfortunately, because there's a whole thing with, crossing that now. But we got to go around to a couple of the villages on the countryside and got to see what that was like. But but definitely like save those kinds of things for a weekend, because on a weekday you'll find yourself probably busy with classes because the teachers are going to expect a lot out of you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think, yeah, someone asked as I introduced you, Matt, is what was a typical day like in Ireland?
So for me, I would wake up at like 7:30ish and get ready, get to class by like 8:30. I honestly don't remember when my first class started. I'm sorry. And then the way I schedule my class is I would take them all in bulk. That way I could have the rest of the day for myself to do whatever. Um, so usually I would get done with my morning classes and then I would hitch a bus. So DCU has 3 campuses, and there's the main one, but there's St. Patrick's and All Hallows. You might end up taking a class on one of those 2 other campuses, and if that's the case, you'll be taking a 15-minute bus ride from the DCU campus to that area. Um, Although I made the walk, and it's not too bad. But when I made the walk, I also got hailed on, so it wasn't too fun. But that's another thing. The Irish weather is horrible. But the like around 4 or 5, I would find myself just pretty much done with my day. And I would head back to my host family's house, or if I needed to go get some stuff, there's lots of shops near you, so you'll be able to go grab like small stuff like food, tooth toothpaste, hair product, whatever you need, pretty much.
Wonderful, thank you. So I put in the chat that we're going to end the event at 5:30. Thank you all for sticking around and listening to myself and our alumni. But if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I know I missed quite a few in the tsunami of questions. So if I didn't answer them, feel free to put them in again. But I know we have Shannon here who is in Korea, and I know it's super early in the morning there for you. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything else about your Korean experience, but it's nice that we have a current Gateway student here with us.
Something I do want to say that I think was touched on a little bit earlier about like just like being like mentally prepared for being here. I was extremely excited about coming to Korea before coming to Korea. I had all the things in my head I wanted to do. So I don't feel homesick at all. Like I'm perfectly fine being here. I love being here. I do have some friends that are starting to get that homesick feel though, or have had it for a while just because they weren't as excited, or just like it's a little bit harder for them. So definitely like keep it in mind, like I was saying earlier, to make sure you're like mentally prepared to be away for that long. And something else about Korea is that it's very small country, and a lot of times it's kind of like, oh, go to Seoul, go to Busan, and then it's just like the main 2 locations. There are a lot of places to go in Korea that are more hidden off the side. So like I went to a beach called Yangyang a few weeks ago, which is just like a small little beach just somewhere, and it was super fun, and you could do like fireworks and things, and like I plan on going. I'm actually I really want to go to like DMZ. I want to do like Gwangju, like Bosong, like more places like that. And a lot of those are like easy $50 plane rides, or you can do a bus ride for like $20. Like it just depends. But before coming, or when you're here, make sure you look up things to do, like seeing things on the outside that aren't just Seoul, because you can find a lot of stuff in different locations too, which was my main goal. There's also, just if anyone is interested in it, a lot of hiking in Korea, a lot of big mountains, and I 100% recommend. I have done a couple, and it's very, very fun, and I really enjoy it. So if anyone has more questions, I'm putting my information in one more time into the chat. But it was nice being here. Good luck to everyone next semester, or in the spring.
Thank you so much for coming, Shannon. All righty. I haven't seen any other questions added. Do any of our other alumni have last minute tips?
For anybody who's still here for Korea, follow the Mason Korea PAC Instagram and keep note of their contact for when you go to Korea, because they're going to have so many resources and they're going to be your main people for when you get to Korea, who's going to have you do events. Like I mentioned in the chat, they have so many travel pamphlets and they'll find you deals, and they're going to be your best friend. I loved being part of PAC, and I loved how much PAC provided for me when I was in Korea.
Yeah, I just to add on, I also will suggest, I say this every time, but I think it's really helpful that before you get to to Korea, or even just your gateway location in general, I think this applies to everybody, but in your University 108 class, just to kind of like bond with each other and like kind of get to know each other and build friendships with each other before you get there, because that will really help with the overwhelmingness and homesickness and just the whole transitioning to living and studying in a new country, especially when you're just starting off as a college student. At least you have people that you already know, a good support system and a good network of friends. And I would suggest, so like what we did for Korea was we organized like within ourselves. We were like, oh, let's exchange our cacao information. Let's go have Korean barbecue together. Let's go karaoke. Like we would do these things together where we were already really great friends before we even got to Korea. And then our time there just made it stronger. And then after that, we're all still friends as well. So it was really nice and really worth it. And I recommend all of you kind of do that with each other. I know Korea is like way bigger now, like 60 people is the cap. It's a lot bigger. It might be a little tougher, but at least you guys can form at least maybe smaller groups within each other. Just essentially the point is to just try to bond with each other before you end up going there. I think it'll help a lot, and it'll ease the whole transition. It'll make it more fun.
And with that too, I think that really helps ease the transition back to Mason your sophomore year, that you're coming back with Mason students who are in your grade. So it's not like you've missed out too much at Mason, because you are coming back with friends as well as the friends that you made in the fall semester. And I really think it's important to get involved your first semester at Mason so you have something to come back to your sophomore year and get you connected back to Fairfax. Fatima, I messaged you privately and I asked this and I don't remember the answer already. You have to bring your own bedding for Korea, right?
So we brought at least I brought our own. A lot of people got our own, or at least we bought it there. I think Haley said that now with like the COVID stuff that people are bringing their own. I think she said is required, but beforehand, at least it might change later on. But when we did it, we just got our own in Korea, like we bought it there. Yeah.
Okay, good to know, because I always get that question and I'm writing it down now so that I'll remember. Thank you so much. And I'm putting in the instructor's email for South Africa, Malia. I saw you asked for it. We have not sent Global Gateway to South Africa yet, so we don't have any alumni, but Kelly lived there and she's going to be the instructor for the fall semester. So I'll put that in real quick and then we'll close this out. Thank you so much for everyone attending.